Coming up on this episode of Common Denominator. By the way, did you wear this belly the entire weekend?
Definitely not. That was the plan.
Right.
About 2 hours in, I was like, I need a break. I'm gonna take this off. And my wife was like, are you kidding me?
Hi, and welcome to Common Denominator, where we focus on human connection and what brings us together. I'm Moshe Popak, and today, pregnancy from a man's perspective. My guest is Dave Aizer, a TV host, lifestyle correspondent, and most importantly, a guy who was pregnant for a weekend, sort of. Dave's wife, Lindsay, was 7 months pregnant with their second child when she pointed out to Dave that he wasn't being empathetic enough. Side note, she was right. So they agreed he would wear a pregnancy belly for a weekend to get a sense of what women go through. Before we hear from Dave about this experience, a quick reminder that if you like the show, please subscribe and follow me on social media at @mpopak. Now, here's one man's experience with pregnancy. Enjoy. Hi, Dave, and welcome back to Common Denominator.
I'm a repeat guest now. I'm honored. Thank you for having me again.
Well, listen, you have almost 5 million views on that box breathing tip. I mean, did you expect that such a tip would go viral?
It's funny because I've spent my life as a TV host. I've hosted shows all over. And by far, the most watched thing I've ever done is a 10-second Instagram/TikTok clip from our last podcast together about breathing.
Well, I'll tell you, it must resonate with a lot of people. And it's a great tip, actually, right?
The box breathing tip. Yeah, it's helped me through speeches. It's helped a ton of people. But I think it underscores the point that public speaking is such a fear for so many people. So if people didn't see the last time I was on, I'm a public speaking coach, and you'd asked me for tips, and I gave a very simple box breathing tip, which is 4 counts of 4. Watch Moshe's previous episode with me to see more. But it just went bananas on social, and I think it's great that hopefully that one tip can help a lot of people feel more comfortable when they have to speak in public.
For sure. And I think even going through your daily exercise, I've been taking up just general breathing. I think it brings you into the present, and it gives you a lot of clarity. So for sure, I definitely agree with that. So you and I talked a few weeks ago, and you took on this challenge to wear basically an empathy pregnancy belly. Your wife's pregnant, and then you decided to do that. So what was going on leading up to that, and tell us a little bit about that experience.
So apparently I lack the empathy gene, which I think a lot of guys do. So my wife, we have a 2.5-year-old, and now my wife is 8 months pregnant with our second child. So a couple of months ago, she's like right in the throes of pregnancy, and you have 10 kids, so you're an expert in this topic. And my wife was just like, just having a really tough time. And I try to be empathetic, but I think what pushed her over the edge was one day when I was like, hey, babe, I'm going to play tennis. Why don't you come watch? And why don't you bring our son? And she's like, you're asking me in the middle of the South Florida summer, 6 months pregnant, to come, A, watch you play tennis, and B, bring our 2-year-old son and watch him. Are you insane? And I was like, why? What's the problem? And she's like, I'm pregnant and miserable. What's wrong with you? And so we landed on the fact that I don't really know what it's like to be pregnant. So she suggested that I wear an empathy pregnancy belly, which I did for a weekend.
So do they actually sell those? What do they sell them like on Amazon? It's called empathy pregnancy belly?
It's empathy pregnancy belly. You know what? That's a good question. Let me make sure I get it right because I want to give them a pub because they were terrific. Empathybellyrental.com was where we got ours.
Wow.
My wife did all the research, and she said you should do this, and I immediately went to the comedy angle. Immediately was like, this will be hilarious. I'll do all these great things and it'll be so funny. Not realizing that it was going to be so hard and uncomfortable and horrible, but I guess that's the point. But yeah, the thing arrived in the mail and I wore it I was supposed to wear it for a whole weekend. I couldn't even make it. I wore it for parts of 2 days and I am a changed man.
So in other words, I guess going in, you're like, oh, this is no big deal. This will be easy, right? And then
pretty much,
and completely, wow. So you have this belly. How much did the belly weigh?
Like 25 pounds.
Wow. So is that actually, is it supposed to mirror the actual weight? Is that what women, because the baby's what, 8, 7,
Right,
8?
but then it's all right. But women put on,
Right.
30, 40, 50 pounds, whatever it is. So you're putting on that weight. And then there's another part of it that is like, it's this contraption that goes over your bladder and presses down on your bladder. Oh, wow. So you have to pee all the time, which, any pregnant lady will tell you that they're peeing all the time. So you're carrying around this uncomfortable mass of 25 pounds and you have to pee all the time. And it's like relentless annoyance, man. It's like every move is annoying. It's really hard.
Wow. So no, for sure. Because I know, like I think back to first to talk about the empathy, my first child, right? So this was, 2006. My son's almost 17. But I remember I had taken I gotten married. 3 weeks later, I took the bar exam. We went on a honeymoon, went on a cruise out of Puerto Rico. So I'm thinking, let me go, let's go down and get some massages, get some pina coladas, go down by the beach. And I see my wife, I got to hit the computer. She was so nauseous from the smells in the cruise. And I'm like, and she's sitting there Googling on the computer, flights to take her back. All right, it's supposed to be our honeymoon, to take her back, because she had been pregnant at the time. It's like, take her back to Miami. And I'm like, oh my God, what did I marry? Who did I marry? And obviously, almost 18 years later, you begin to understand a little bit. Did you wear this belly the entire weekend?
Definitely not. That was the plan.
Right.
About 2 hours in, I was like, I need a break. I'm gonna take this off. And my wife was like, are you kidding me? So I took it off for a little, then I put it back on, and then I took it off and I put it back on. And then I will admit that I totally wimped out when it came to sleeping. I knew by the end of day one, I was like, this is really hard. And thank God men can't get pregnant. I want no part of this. And then I was like, oh no, I haven't even tried to sleep yet. So I tried for about 15 minutes and then took it off and totally chickened out and got a good night's sleep, which is so unfair because women can't be unpregnant when they have to sleep.
No, I remember like tossing and turning to the extent my wife got this like long pillow to basically put her belly on because it's so uncomfortable sleeping. So,
and not just that, Moshe, I was laying down in bed holding our son, and he was confused by the whole thing too, by the way. I'm holding him, and then, it's not just the big ticket stuff that's hard to do. It's the little stuff. You should have seen me try to get out of bed from a laying down position, to go from laying down to standing up. Wow. It was like I was trying to get out of a straitjacket. I was trying to figure out a way to get my body to roll, to contort. And I can feel women right now just nodding their head yes as they're listening to hearing me say this. I couldn't even get out of bed. And I'm like, babe, this is hard.
Wow. So what were some of the things that you actually did do? Like, because you put it on before the weekend. You're like, I'm gonna go do this. So what were some of the things that you did actually do wearing the belt?
So I put it on and I'm like, okay, this is heavy, but how bad could it be? I'm going to go play tennis. And I will tell you that this company tells you not to exercise. They tell you not to because it could be dangerous, but I'm like, I'll be fine. I lasted 5 minutes, on the tennis court. The thing is, your body chemistry feels really off. Like your coordination is totally off. So something as simple as like walking or running, you have to like retrain your brain how to do it because you're top heavy, your weight is all off. So I tried to play sports and it hurt, and I was like, enough of this. Then I said the one benefit, because after that I went home and watched football on the couch and ate. I figured let me eat a lot of food. Let me at least get like a perk, The only benefit I think was I was able to use my belly as a coaster. I had the chips and the drink on the belly, and I thought, okay, finally, a good thing. Other than that, driving was super hard. Putting my son in his car seat was super hard. As I mentioned, sleeping was impossible. Everything, tying your shoes was ridiculous. And I was sweating, and I was short of breath, and I was so irritated always. And I get it. I understand why women have a short fuse when they're pregnant. It's just annoying.
Yeah. No, and I know you were telling me before the show that there was a discussion about going to a birthday party with it. What was that like?
Okay, so my nephew had a birthday party that weekend, and my wife was like, "You're wearing the thing to the party, right?" And I said, "No, I'm not going to wear it because I don't want to steal his attention. I don't want to be the center of attention. It's his birthday party." And she was like, "Oh, must be nice to take something off because you don't want people to look at you, or you don't want to be the center of attention." So it's all these things that I never considered as a caveman, dumb man, you know. I guess I considered, sure, it looks like it's uncomfortable, but I didn't consider the looks that you always get when you go out in public. And I think my wife sometimes doesn't want people always looking at her and asking her questions about being pregnant. So my decision to not wear it for me was just like, hey, I don't want to be the life of the party. It's not about me. She was like, well, you know what? It always is when you're pregnant, even if you don't want it to be. So that was like yet another thing that I learned along the way.
And I'll tell you, first of all, learning empathy, I'm a huge believer in that. I mean, there must be tremendous takeaways when you really sit, and I always say, how do you learn something? Sometimes you have to smash your head up against the wall.
Yes.
Many times, right? You could tell, like my kids, I could talk to them, I'm blue in the face. But unless you experience it, right, it's a little different. So kind of going through this experience a few weekends ago, what are your key takeaways, and I guess what actions are you going to take differently moving forward?
Women are rock stars. Thank you to all of the women out there. The first thing I did after like profusely apologizing to my wife / thanking her was I called my mom. And I was like, thank you for having me, because man, that must have been a real pain in the ass. So I think first of all, it's just like the natural, now I see a pregnant woman and I'm like, I've been there. I've been pregnant. I know. I feel you. I feel your pain. Very, very briefly. So I think it's just this sort of general respect for what they've gone through. And then I have really tried since then to be more like tolerant and less obnoxious and not asking her to do stuff. Because I never asked her to do stuff maliciously. She's my best friend. So, I would be like, babe, let's go to dinner because I just love hanging out with her. And she's like, no. And I didn't really understand why. I'm like, you don't have to do anything. I'll drive, whatever. But it's hot in Florida. You just don't want to. So I think trying to understand that it's physical, it's emotional, it messes with your energy and your mood, and just trying to like give her some space.
If you're just joining me, you're listening to the Common Denominator podcast. My guest this week is Dave Aizer, who, at the request of his wife, wore a pregnancy belly for a weekend, and it changed him forever. Next week, I'll chat with Adam von Rothfelder, whose life journey has taken him from professional mixed martial artist to personal trainer to Versace model to the CEO of a very successful coffee company. He'll share a lifetime of wisdom on perseverance, versatility, and grit. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss it. Now, back to the show. And is this, for your experience, the second time around, is it different, similar, as far as the pregnancy? And
well, I would be curious to hear from you, because this pregnancy for my wife has been much harder than the first one. And I think that's another reason we decided to do this, because she's like, if you think I'm having a third, you're out of your mind. So yeah, in her case, it's just been tough. Yeah. But I would ask you, would you ever do this? And B, did you notice, I guess maybe from child to child, that your wife, different pregnancies were different on her? Probably, right?
Yeah, definitely. So it's 8 boys, 2 girls, and I definitely between the boys and the girls, just her physical, like her energy level, and we're completely different. But yeah, each was different, and you couldn't gauge. I think of it like in business, we're constantly pivoting. So as a man, the only way you can be is be available. Just be as supportive as you can be, because you don't know. It's not their fault, by the way. It's like they're doing the best they can. Think about it, right? They have something living.
Oh, man.
It's the craziest. If you close your eyes as a man, where we are cavemen and primitive, right? They have something alive inside of their body, like taking control of their whole existence. And there's nothing you could do. You can't get rid of it. And it's your baby, right? You know, and I've also heard on, also with nursing, I've heard so many different sides. Like some people have amazing also like with the births, right? So they have an amazing birth, and some people don't have great births. And then some people love nursing, and some people can't nurse.
Yeah.
Right. So that whole experience for a woman, I mean, I don't know. I guess I think of it as, again, you know, lay person man, as just you know, perspective maybe.
Well, so it's funny you were saying that, and I flashed back. So I always try to, I try to use humor as like my coping mechanism. Yeah. And when you were saying that, I was thinking back to the delivery room for our son, our first kid. And, you know, my wife's going through labor, and I'm trying to tell jokes just because, like, I'm just trying anything I can. And let me tell you, if you've ever bombed on a comedy club, that must be what it feels like, you know? So, you know, trying to be empathetic and maybe just sometimes stay the heck out of the way. Right. But I think comedy, when your wife is giving birth, is probably not the best way to go.
Right. No, for sure. No, but I do, of all things, as far as coping mechanism, I definitely agree. Like, comedy takes the cake in general. So it's like a thing. But you know what? Now that we're having this discussion, I think, would I practically try this? And I probably should. You know, maybe I'll borrow that belly. Right?
I had to give it back. Otherwise, I would have worn it here today. No. You should. I do think every guy should. I really do. Yeah.
In other words, it may, you know, from a practical perspective, actually really help people's relationship. It
does. You know, it's it's apples to oranges, right? Because as we've said, even if you feel some of the physical pain, you don't really feel of the hormonal, emotional sensitivity stuff. I have to just sort of approximate what that must feel like. But at least at minimum, you feel how annoying it is, how difficult it is. And the other thing, too, is as I'm I mentioned, rolling around trying to figure out how to get out of bed or clumsily tying a shoe, I didn't have the danger of hurting a real human being inside of me. Like, I could, like, fall down and it's no big deal. On top of everything else, they've got to protect that thing that's making them so uncomfortable.
Yeah. No, it's a whole thing. It's a whole thing to think of. But yeah, no, I think that's a good exercise. I think it's, even if you're not going to wear the belly, you know, I always say take that pen to paper. You know, if I had this belly, 25 pounds, how would I feel having to go to the bathroom every 10 minutes? But
the answer is miserable. If you're curious.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a journey. So hopefully your wife, I think she's due in a couple weeks, right?
Yeah. She's due in mid-December, early to mid-December, yeah. And how was,
because that's also another stage. How was, after your first son was born, Miles, after he was born, how were those first few months? It was also a shift.
It's such a shift, and I would ask you how your experiences went. I had a hard time in the beginning as a man because there wasn't much utility that I could provide. I wanted him to bond with me. He was my son. He was my boy. But in the beginning, I felt fairly useless.
Right.
Now he's like, we're inseparable. I mean, he's my dude, you know. Right. But in the first few months was really hard, and talk about women struggling emotionally. I struggled with that. I really did. I couldn't connect with him. And did you have that?
No, very, very, very similar. Typically, my wife would nurse about a year, maybe a little more. So all the kids. I mean, I don't know. I married up. My wife's like
a superstar.
Yeah, superstar. I mean, 10 kids. We work together. Whatever. I'm a kid from the streets of Brooklyn. So, but yeah, that first year. Yes, in the first bunch of kids, I would be up in the middle of the night. I would get the baby, but Yafa would still nurse, but tough to connect. I'll give you an example, but like you're saying now, your son's 3, is he?
Almost 3.
Almost 3.
Yeah.
So that age, like my son Aaron, we would go to like a business meeting. It'd be like a construction meeting for like 2 hours. Okay, here's the deal. you're going to sit here, because all my kids have completely different personalities, all 10 of them. You're going to sit here, you're not going to move, okay? If you do good, nothing. You just sit. If you do good, you're going to get a croissant. We're going to go to the bake shop.
So you're bribing him.
Yeah, bribing him, basically.
Right.
And then he would sit. So I love, and for all my kids, that's my favorite age. The age basically almost 2, like 18 months, 20 months, to like 3, 3.5. It's like melting. My boys and my girls. So that's like, because they can do no wrong. It's it can be terrible twos, doesn't make a difference.
Yeah,
like,
and he starts his first soccer league in 2 weeks, and oh man, that's gonna be so cool. And he's hitting baseballs off the tee, like he's doing all these things now that I feel like I get to help him and teach him. Although my wife played college soccer and was an All-American, so she gets that one too. But still, I do now feel like we're kindred. But the beginning is hard for a guy.
Yeah, no, for sure. I talk in general about for guys. There's, and not saying good or bad, but I just believe for guys there should be more support systems, for sure. More support systems. We're told we don't live in the. We always talk about we don't still live in the cave. Cave times or but there should be that. There should be speaking reality, right? Because men and women both have emotions and feelings. So the more we have of that, the better.
I think so. I really do. I think for a lot of us guys, it is difficult to understand what women are going through when they're pregnant, and it's hard to say the right things sometimes. Sometimes it's like, maybe I don't say anything at all. Like I feel like what's the old sort of cliche is that men are problem solvers, right? And women just want to be heard. And so I have tried, again, the stuff that we, argued about was usually me just trying to ask her to come hang out with me. It was never anything mean, but it's the wrong space, wrong time. So us guys, we need some help.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. I think, just like a practical tip. I know I love massage, right? It's like someone like massaging your feet. Like, so if your wife's pregnant, don't say anything. Just go out, boom, massage those feet, massage those hands, whatever.
Yeah, 4 hours into my empathy belly experience, I thought she would rub my feet. She did not. I said, why am I not being pampered? I've been pregnant for 4 hours.
Would you, by the way, would you do it again?
Nope. Same as skydiving. I did it once, and that is enough. Yeah. Yeah,
that's awesome. But I know, my kids are, it's funny, my daredevil's my daughter. You talk about skydiving, and she's been pushing me to go skydiving. She just showed me a clip of, it's called Stairway to Heaven. It's like this, like really narrow stairs going mountain to mountain in Austria. Like you just have like a little clip, and you could fall off the side. So she's my daredevil. How was that experience, skydiving?
One of, without exaggeration or hyperbole, one of the greatest things I've ever done in my life. And as long as you medically can do it, I highly recommend it. So it's obviously exhilarating, but and I think you would really appreciate this from what I know of you, it gives you such incredible perspective on the universe. Because I was 13,500 feet up, right? I think that's kind of roughly what people usually are when they go skydiving. When you fall out of the plane, so the first 45 seconds to a minute is a free fall, which is just insane. It's crazy. But then they pull the chute and then you sort of coast. And that's amazing too, because that's when you see kind of how small you are in the grand scheme of the universe. You just see fields and plains and water. And it's amazing. It's really incredible. And it just gives you perspective of like gratitude and appreciation for life. So I highly recommend it. But I will give you a practical tip. The mistake I made was I got on the plane first, which meant I got off the plane last, which you don't want to do, because then you're watching everybody else jump and you're going, oh God, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. So I would recommend getting on last so you can just get off first.
Wow, awesome. You mentioned about gratitude. So always ask all the guests about something they're grateful for.
Yeah.
So what comes to your mind?
My wife, keeping in the spirit of this episode, my wife, she's given me a beautiful child with another one due. I guess I could get a phone call now that she's in labor now. She's a rock star. She's so funny and smart and cool and tough and handy, by the way. She is the handy one of the two of us. It's really fairly embarrassing, but whatever. But she's awesome.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And what's something that people don't know about you?
I hate olives and would not eat olives if you put $1,000 in front of me. I would not eat a plate of olives.
It's funny. I feel that way about celery. I don't know.
Really?
Yeah, I won't eat celery. And I love olives. It's funny. It's just something. I don't know. I used to not like mushrooms, like the texture of mushrooms. Now I love mushrooms. I don't know. I guess it changes over time.
Yeah, but olives, I remember as a TV host, I was living in Manhattan, and I got a call from my agent, and it was it was a chance to host one of those like Fear Factor-ish type shows. It wasn't Fear Factor, but it was like similar, like people had to eat gross stuff and do gross things. And so my agent said to me, she said, when you go audition for this thing, why don't you bring something that you don't want to do and show them? So I brought a plate of olives to eat. And I'm telling you, I detest olives. And so I went and I auditioned and I was like, just so you know how serious I am about this, I am going to eat this plate of olives in front of you. And I got about 3 or 4 olives in and I was like cringing and trying to keep it down. And they said, okay, we appreciate the sentiment. It's enough. And I didn't even get the gig. And I ate 4 olives for no reason.
Wow. So you were a TV host, and right? So how was that experience, by the way?
Cool, man. Super cool. You're a podcast host. It's fun, right?
Yeah. No, it's a journey. It's definitely a journey and super fun. So really, Dave, great to have you back on the show, and really appreciate it. Just more empathy for the wives, right?
Ladies,
right?
You are the ultimate rock stars.
There we go.
Keep doing what we men are not equipped or capable of doing.
That's right.
Yeah.
Thanks so much, Dave.
You got it.
Hope you enjoyed my conversation with Dave. Next week, I'll speak with the CEO of the Strong Coffee Company, Adam von Rothfelder. Adam's life has taken him from professional mixed martial artist fighting to personal training to being a Versace model to his current role as the CEO of a very successful coffee company. He'll share his journey of perseverance and persistence and tell you why his coffee is a healthy source of grass-fed collagen protein. Please subscribe to the show so you don't miss an episode and follow me on social media at @mpopak. Have a great day, and I'll talk to you again soon.